To International House at the University of California come students from all over the world.
I've been a documentary filmmaker dating all the way back to 1999 when I started producing biographical documentaries about people from my hometown here in Berkeley, California. And the current documentary film project I'm working on, All American, the Walter Gordon story, has been an extreme challenge for me and my co-producer, Brian Spencer. One of the things that we decided to do with our documentary is to have a 100-year anniversary to raise awareness about all of the achievements that he accomplished during his wonderful life. And so the Walter Gordon Weekend was a creation to have a list of activities that would celebrate the life of Walter Gordon back at his alma mater, UC Berkeley. And it engaged top administration for the whole University of California system.
Walter Gordon broke many barriers at the University of California. He was the first black football player at Cal, the first black student accepted into Berkeley Law, the first black police officer in the city of Berkeley.
Being the first is never easy, and Mr. Gordon was the first at least 4 times over. And while it is difficult to do something that no one has ever done before, that difficulty multiplies in unexpected and often painful ways.
Walter's contributions were essential to paving a path for African American opportunity and inclusion here at the University of California, even before the Civil Rights era.
Walter Gordon was truly a forerunner of what we know now as diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Walter Gordon modeled and embodied the ethos of a life in pursuit of equity, belonging, and justice. His playing and coaching career for 24 years at Cal is commendable. And we also celebrate his invaluable contribution as assistant coach and chief scout for game planning that helped produce the Wonder Team's extraordinary record of 5 straight undefeated years and multiple national championships.
We look forward to carrying on Walter's legacy for another 100 years and beyond.
The Walter Gordon Tribute event was an opportunity for former alumni, community members, university faculty to all come together to celebrate and honor this great Berkeley legend.
I think I would like people to know that his legacy is important, that it's meant for everybody, and that we have a lot of work to do.
As a pioneer, one thing you learn very quickly is leadership is very, very hard, especially when no one understands you and you're ahead of your time. Walter Gordon was ahead of his time.
During the tribute, I had an opportunity to have a conversation with Bay Area media personality Noah Griffin, and it was a wonderful opportunity for me to get to share with the audience a little bit about my life and my journey as a filmmaker.
And what I basically want to show everyone is a preview of Brian and I's documentary that we've been working on, and we got it off to a good start, but we got a long way to go. But we want to make sure that we share, our 10-minute preview with the audience so they can get a feel for what this story is gonna kind of look like and be like. So let's take a look at it.
To understand this era in which Walter Gordon was a student here at Cal, so few universities and colleges in the United States had any black students.
My grandfather loved Berkeley, and it was a place where he became a part of a community that was evolving at the time, and his work with NAACP, as it began, really is tied to the other things that were going on in the African American community in the 20s.
My grandfather was a big sports fan. Although he wasn't very athletic himself, he loved sports, and he loved football and rugby, basketball, baseball, boxing. And I understand he actually met Walt Gordon through boxing. because Walt was an amazing athlete, and they'd known each other through the 20s when Papa Warren was a DA in Alameda County, and so they ended up working together in law enforcement.
He is then elected governor of the state of California, is talked about as a possible president of the United States. He is a liberal Republican. He is a pro-civil rights Republican, and some of that pro-civil rights policy that you see in Earl Warren comes out of this close friendship that he had with Walter Gordon.
Our tribute panel discussion gave the members of the panel an opportunity to provide the audience with a lot of the history that Walter Gordon was involved with as a civil rights and social justice pioneer.
Do you see in any way that this can maybe help race relations?
I think it has every chance to. And I think that the story of his life is a lesson that transcends race in many ways. The project started with the connection between Earl Warren and Walter Gordon, for me anyway.
But I think Walt Gordon had an amazing influence on Papa Warren. Maybe he liked him because during the Prohibition, Papa Warren would go upstairs every night after work when he was just returning and tell his wife, "Mother, I'm going to go up and have my medicine." And he'd go up and have a couple of them. And Officer Gordon never busted him, so maybe that was the reason.
But to be honoring Walter Gordon is, it's really a pleasure. It's an honor. I mean, he was, when I grew up, his name was mentioned often in our house. I think my grandfather thought Walter Gordon was the finest man he'd ever met. His name was always around, and to be here, to be on a panel to talk about him is just the world needs to know about people like Walter Gordon.
So what I love about Walter Gordon is that he's what I call a border crossing brother, in that he manifests his excellence in many different ways, and I think that's one of the challenges sometimes our student athletes face. It's like, okay, I'm here, I was brought here to play a particular sport, but I'm also gifted in these different areas. So how do I show that? Is that welcomed here or anywhere in our world, in our country? And I think many of our student athletes, just in general, and I'll go further, I'll say professional athletes as well, do not realize that they're brilliant. Our student athletes are here, and I'm excited for them to be in the same space together to imagine what can come from harnessing the power of Walter Gordon's story, his legacy, not just for today, but for generations to come.
Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see things moving in another direction, or is it the same thing at a different level?
Well, I'll say something that we Alphas say, Alpha Phi Alpha is the light. 06, Alpha Phi Alpha is the light, and as I said before, it's about servant leadership.
I think the legacy of Walter Gordon is important, not just for African Americans, but for all. It's the history of this country. It's the history of this city. It's the history of the Bay Area. It is a pathway on how to be successful and how to embrace that.
You see, Walter Gordon comes from the Berkeley I come from. He and my grandfather were very close friends, Leo C. Hayes. And right now, we're standing in light from 100 years ago. I feel it, because every step I take is illuminated by that light.
Walter Gordon's story is truly a story that a lot of our young people could learn from. And a big part of our project is the educational curriculum that's going to accompany our documentary, where young students can also learn and be motivated and inspired to do the best that they can do as they move forward with their education.
My great-grandfather, as we mentioned earlier, is the founding member of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc., Alpha Epsilon chapter. For those Alphas that are here, I call those to the front because we'd like to sing the hymn.